Have you ever just stopped and wondered why we humans are such a paradox? I mean, we are capable of the most horrific, calculated violence. But at the same time, we're also capable of these breathtaking acts of altruism and kindness. So what's going on in our biology that allows our best and our worst behaviors to exist side by side? That's what we're going to dive into.
You know, the neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky really gets to the heart of it here. Most of us are pretty confused about violence. You might love watching an action movie, but at the same time, you're in favor of gun control. Or you might feel this primal urge for retribution against someone who's done wrong, but you still oppose the death penalty. It's this internal conflict that makes understanding why we do what we do so incredibly challenging.
So, this is the central mystery, isn't it? How can the same species that orchestrates something as horrific as a genocide also be the one to rush to help victims of a natural disaster on the complete other side of the world? This isn't just a simple question of good versus evil. Oh no, the answer is way more complex, and it's buried deep down inside our biology. And to really unravel it, we need a totally new way of thinking about why we do what we do.
Okay, so to understand any behavior, whether it's pulling a trigger or extending a helping hand, we have to peel back the layers of time. We have to ask, what was happening in the brain 1 second before? What hormones were coursing through the body hours before? What life experiences shaped that person years before? And then, what cultural forces were at play for centuries? And what evolutionary pressures were going on for millennia before that?
So here's the framework. It all starts with the immediate stuff, the neurobiology of the action, right in that moment. Then we zoom out a bit to the hormonal environment that kind of primed the brain for that action. Then we go out even further to the developmental experiences that literally wired that brain. Then we go wider still to the cultural and ecological forces that shaped our values. And finally, all the way out to the deep evolutionary pressures that sculpted our species in the first place. See? Each layer adds another critical piece to the puzzle.
All right, now let's actually apply this framework to one of the most powerful and, frankly, most dangerous ideas in all of human history, our tendency to divide the world into us and them. It's a force that drives pretty much everything, from who you root for in sports all the way to war.
And here's the thing, it's not a conscious decision, not at all. It's completely automatic. In a fraction of a second, literally faster than you can blink, your brain makes a snap judgment about who is in and who is out. And this lightning-fast process, well, that's the first biological domino to fall.
And this complexity is perfectly illustrated by a hormone called oxytocin. We usually call it the cuddle hormone, right? Because it makes us more trusting and generous and cooperative. But, and this is a huge but, here's the catch, it only does that for people we see as us. When it comes to them, oxytocin can actually make us more prejudiced, less cooperative, and even hostile. It's the same molecule with a completely different effect, and it all comes down to social context. Wild, right?
Then you've got the amygdala, which is basically our brain's threat detector. It fires up almost instantly when we see a face from an out group, injecting this unconscious distrust into the situation. But what's absolutely fascinating is that our default state as humans, it's actually to trust. The amygdala learns to be vigilant through experience. So think about that. It's not just hardwired to distrust outsiders, it's taught to. So, with all these automatic brain processes and these hormonal influences, you might be thinking, are we just biological puppets? And the answer to that is a resounding no. Not at all. The most remarkable thing about our brains, especially our frontal cortex, is their ability to change. We can override those initial instincts. We can choose to behave differently.
Let's look at an incredible, real-world example of this. We're going to go to the trenches of World War I, one of the most brutal conflicts in human history.
So get this, the soldiers on the front lines, the guys who were supposed to hate each other the most, they spontaneously created these unofficial truces. They developed unspoken rules, like shelling the same empty barn at the exact same time every day, just to signal that they were maintaining the peace. And why? Because the shared misery of the trenches, that awful context, created a new us, an us that was way more powerful than their national identities. Now, for a story of an incredible individual choice. During the Vietnam War, a helicopter pilot named Hugh Thompson Jr. was flying a reconnaissance mission over a village called My Lai. And from the air, he saw American soldiers killing unarmed civilians, women, children, old men. In that horrific moment, Thompson made a choice. He landed his helicopter between the American soldiers and the villagers. He told his crew to aim their guns at their fellow Americans and to open fire if they didn't stop the massacre. In that instant, he fundamentally redefined us. Us wasn't his unit anymore. Us became the innocent human beings about to be murdered. His conscious choice overrode everything. His training, the chain of command, the intense pressure of war. Just amazing.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that the biology of our behavior is incredibly complicated. And believe it or not, that complexity is actually the best news we could possibly ask for.
This complexity means we have to throw out all the simple answers. There's no single gene for violence or some magic hormone for kindness. It's never just nature or nurture. The real word for it is multifactorial, meaning it's a constant, dynamic dance between our genes, our hormones, our experiences, and our culture, all interacting at once.
And this leads us to what is maybe the most crucial point of all. We haven't evolved to be just plain selfish or just plain altruistic. We've evolved to be particular ways in particular settings. Our biology provides the tendencies, sure, but it's the context that pulls the trigger. The environment, the culture, the immediate situation, that is what determines whether our best or our worst behaviors come to the surface. Context is everything. Now, this complexity isn't some get-out-of-jail-free card for bad behavior. Far from it. What it is a roadmap. By understanding all the different levers that influence our behavior, from brain chemistry all the way up to social structures, we can actually start to consciously pull the right ones. We can create the conditions that make kindness easier and violence harder.
And that really leaves us with this final, powerful question. If context is the key that unlocks our biological potential, for good or for ill, then maybe the most important work any of us can do is to become architects of better contexts, to build families and communities and societies that consistently bring out the very best in our complicated, conflicted, and ultimately hopeful human nature.